In many ways, life was simpler for teens in 1981. There were no cell phones, iPods, or even CDs. Sony Walkmans were the rage. Personal computers were several years away, and most Americans had never even heard of the internet. But in other ways, life was more challenging. About half the states had drinking ages under 21. Drunk driving was the #1 killer of teens. The number of teens killed on the road in alcohol-related crashes was almost 2.5 times what it is today. One night in July of 1981, in the town of Wayland, Massachusetts, just west of Boston, a high school junior named John, a promising hockey player being recruited by a number of colleges, was at a party and realized he was about to miss his curfew. He jumped into his car and sped home to try to beat the deadline. He didn't make it home alive. His hockey coach, Bob Anastas, got the news at his home the next morning.
I asked the children if they would mind waiting in the house because I could hear Bob coming down the street, and I thought that I really needed to talk to him alone about it first. So I met him in the yard and told him, and I will never forget the look of pain and horror on his face that it couldn't be John, not John.
Then the second bombshell dropped. Just 10 days after John's crash, another hockey player, Buddy, died from injuries sustained in another car accident. The students of Wayland High School turned out, stunned and crying, for their second funeral in 2 weeks. Coach Anastas also taught health classes, and in the fall, as his sophomore class discussed drunk driving, the students became very emotional.
Burying 2 boys, it totally surfaced that #1, the kids didn't want to bury these kids. They loved them very much, and they felt guilty that they allowed these kids to slip away.
Anastas was exasperated and finally told the kids that they are the ones who are responsible, not the adults. They are the ones who are at the parties. They are the ones who put the keys in the car and drive.
And also what came out of those wakes was the fact that these kids felt the power to do something about that.
From this shared sorrow, anger, and passion, an idea started to form. Through a series of meetings, Anastas and a group of students discussed what was going on and ways it could be stopped. They decided to name their group Students Against Driving Drunk to capture the responsibility that teens themselves had for their behavior. "If the problem is mine, then the solution lies with me," was one of their slogans. They also determined that parents needed to be more involved, and they developed a contract which they called the Contract for Life. The Contract for Life required a conversation between a teen and his or her parents to discuss what would happen if they were out at night and couldn't get home safely. In addition to protecting their safety, the contract was designed to promote communication between parents and teens around the important issue of underage drinking and impaired driving.